to call your invention, because you want potential customers to immediately connect that invention to you. So that's the benefit of a trademark, and that's why it's really important to come up with something that's strong and unique that can tie that invention immediately to you.
Okay. I had an inventor that came to me the other day and said, Brian, can I trademark my name?
Yeah. Well, let me say this. You always want to search. So that's one of my most important lessons for today is before you fall in love with any particular proposed mark, and we'll call them proposed marks, you really want to make sure that it's available for you to use and or to register in connection with your goods and services. So absolutely, folks register names all the time. You know, everything from Jones of New York to I'm trying to think of Tommy Hilfiger. There's tons of names that are also trademarks, but the key is it has to be available and it has to be used in a manner that would indicate to consumers that it is in fact a trademark or a service mark.
Okay. So basically an inventor, when they come up with a really great name for their product, they go on to the uspto.gov website and they click on trademarks and search for trademarks, and they can put it in their, whether it's their motto or their brand name that they came up with or a product name, and it may possibly come up, and it may say live or dead on there, and the ones that say live, you click on it, and you look at the class of goods. Now, you may be bummed out and say, oh, you know, that somebody's using that name for, you know, using that name. But when you click on it, you see that the class of goods may be a different class of goods than yours. So you may be eligible to get a trademark. Is that right?
You may be, but one of the things I would caution you is we don't just look at, when we're determining whether something is available for registration, we don't just look at whether or not the goods are identical to those that are identified in a pending application or registration. We also look to see whether or not they're related. Are they in similar trade channels? Are consumers used to seeing the same products and services coming from the same type of consumer, even though they're different? So you want to not only, so for instance, shoes and handbags. You know, there's a lot of, you know, manufacturers that are doing both of those things. So it's possible that if you just search shoes alone, that class for shoes, and you don't also include the coordinated classes that might include handbags and coats, etc., then you might miss out on some potentially relevant marks.
Okay.
So I always recommend searching broadly initially, especially if you're thinking of using a term with a larger segment of goods or services.
Okay, so let's take two examples. Let's say brown. I mean, the color brown. What do people identify brown as right now? UPS, right? Or
right.
Let's say the golden arches, right?
Right.
Or McDonald's. Those are what you call trademarks, right?
Yes, those would be trademark and probably service marks as well, because they're, as you mentioned, they're the services of McDonald's, the restaurant, and the transportation service would be with UPS.
Okay, so Montia, when you have this name that you're excited about trademarking, when do you file for intellectual property protection? Let's say you don't have your product, you don't even have a prototype done. You didn't file a provisional patent or non-provisional, but you want to just secure the name. You came up with a great name. When is the right time, if there is a right time, to protect your intellectual property of a trademark, possibly?
Well, again, I would say the very first step always is search. So once you've searched your proposed mark and you've determined that it looks like it's available based on a search of our website, you mentioned our search database, which is actually called TESS, by the way, TESS. Once you've searched that and it's available, you're absolutely right that you should be thinking along the lines of whether or not you can protect that mark, even if you haven't actually started using your product or offering that product, I should say, in the marketplace. The great thing about trademarks is you can actually file an application based on the intention to use that mark in commerce, so that you can get an application on file and you can, identify the goods and services that you're intending to use that mark with even before you've actually started offering it in commerce. And that's a great way to protect that mark as you go throughout the invention process and you get that product ready to get to market. you've also started moving along the process of registering your trademark. One thing to keep in mind, though, even though you can file based on intent to use, you won't actually get to register it until you do actually use it, but you can file extensions of time to file that statement of use or evidence of use until you do get that actual use in commerce going. So you definitely want to consider taking advantage of that intent to use application.
Okay, super. So if I have a name that I want to protect, I can file it before I have anything and have it where it's intent to use, and within 6 months I have to prove to the patent office that I've been using this, patent and trademark office, that I've been using this in commerce. And if I'm not, I have an opportunity to extend it and give myself another 3 months, and I can continue that for a couple times.
Exactly.
And then when I do use it, I prove to the trademark office that I've used it in commerce, and I identify the date that I have used it in commerce, and then I present it to your office. And once it's accepted, that shows that it's been used, that's when I can turn my TM mark into an R. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What if I have a product right now and I don't have the money to file for the trademark right now, but I want to, or I should say, I heard that I could put a TM next to my name. Is that allowed, and what kind of protection do I have when somebody does that?
That is correct. That's actually common law protection, which is trademarks are created by using a mark in commerce before someone else. So common law rights, distinct from federal rights through a registration, are generated just by using that mark in commerce. So when you see someone who has a TM or an SM, that could either mean that they have an application that's pending that hasn't registered, or you see an SM, or it could mean that they haven't filed anything at all and they're relying on those common law protections which exist at state and also at the federal level, that they're relying on common law protections based on their prior use, and that's a way that you put others on notice that you are claiming proprietary rights or that you are staking that as your trademark. So it's a way to put the public on notice that you're saying that is in fact your mark.
Understood. Okay, well, that's great information. So, Montia, tell us where inventors can learn more about trademarks and how. I know that there's all kinds of FAQs and tools and resources. Tell us where we need to go.
Absolutely. Like Mindy indicated, you want to go to the uspto.gov website and go to the trademark portal, and you'll find a wealth of information and online tools, all free. Things like the Trademark Information Network, which is actually a set of videos on everything from trademark basics to the importance of searching, like I've touched on today, how to file, what your application should include, and also how to maintain your registration. There's also, as you mentioned, answers to frequently asked questions about trademarks. And there's also timelines that will tell you how long different parts of the process will take and what happens at each of those stages. And I also wanted to mention the search database. As I mentioned, it's TESS, which is a trademark electronic search system. That's where you want to go to do a search of any marks that you're interested in to see if they're available. And again, it's just the marks that are on file with our office, so it's not going to cover state applications or registrations. It's not going to cover those common law marks that haven't filed, but it will tell you whether or not there's anything in our database that's been filed that's ahead of yours. Also, there's TESS, which is, the TEAS, which is our application system, and that's where you would go to file your application. We have electronic forms for virtually everything you want to do with our office. So it just makes it very easy and clean. It gets it directly into our database. And if you have questions about anything, I just wanted to mention that we have a Trademark Assistance Center that's dedicated to answering general questions about trademarks. And I wanted to give that telephone number, if I could. There's actually an 800 number. It's 1-800-786-9199. And also the email, there's an email, and it's just Trademark Assistance Center, all one word, with no spaces, at uspto.gov.
Super.
So that's a great place to start for general information about anything that you want to know about trademarks.
And I have to say, when I call up for my trademark assistance, it's hardly any wait, and the people who answer the phone and who I talk to are very knowledgeable, and they help me accomplish what I need to on the call, and it's fantastic. I mean, there's so many great resources, and you don't have to be an attorney or an agent, patent attorney or agent or intellectual property something, to call up. They talk to you, and they help you to understand it. So you may have some kind of office action that came back, and you don't have the money to pay for your patent attorney, or you just have a simple question. Maybe you don't want to bother your patent attorney, you want to just talk to them. Whatever the situation, they're there to help you, and the opportunity is there, just like our ladies are saying from the patent office tonight on our show. Take advantage of the resources and the help that's available to you from the USPTO Patent Office. Patent and Trademark Office.
Very good.
All right. So, Montia, is there anything else that you'd like to share within your area there?
Well, I wanted to touch on it. I know Elizabeth is going to mention the conference that's coming up in October 11th and 12th, but we will be participating. The Trademark Office will be there. We'll be giving additional information about the trademark application process. We're going to offer hands-on trademark searching using TESS, the database that I mentioned, and we're also going to be offering a demonstration of TEAS so that you can get an idea and some familiarity with filing applications and other maintenance documents, statements of use, which you alluded to for submitting your evidence of use in order to get your registration. And just wanted to touch on that we are now offering an or electronic official gazette. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the publication of trademark registrations or applications that are allowed for registration. We've now moved to an electronic format so that hopefully it's easier for them to find their own marks and also to search and find out other marks that others might be using, and to find out where in the process those applications are, and to see what goods and services are being offered with other applications. But it's available also through our website, and it's called the E-Official Gazette.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. All right, Montia, we appreciate your information.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
Elizabeth Dougherty, I'm going to go over your title one more time. The Director of Inventor Education, Outreach and Recognition for the Office of Innovation Development.
Hi, Brian. It's a pleasure to be with you and your listeners tonight.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So tell us what you're up to at the USPTO for inventors.
I'd be happy to. And I want to thank you, Brian, because we really enjoy coming on your show. We know, being an inventor and entrepreneur yourself, that you're really dedicated to providing good information and helpful information to people who are also going through the innovation cycle, the innovation journey. No matter what stage of the process they're at, you've probably been through it yourself, and this is really a unique opportunity for us to reach out to some of the members of our community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth. You know, I love having you on the show, you and the other ladies on the show, but I love when I see you in person. We've seen each other.
I'll get to it when I talk about our 18th Annual Independent Inventors Conference, but just to let your listeners know, Brian himself is going to be part of our event. So if you've heard Brian on the radio and want to actually take a peek at what Brian looks like in person and actually get to shake his hand and thank him for the great work that he's doing, I encourage you to come down and join us. He's one of many, many fine speakers we're going to have, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
I would like to kind of continue upon the theme that we've been talking about this evening, and that's really that the USPTO is dedicated to its stakeholders. It's dedicated to its users, its user community, whether you're represented by an attorney, whether you're an inventor pro se, proceeding along the path without the assistance of an attorney. We are here to help. I think sometimes there's the misconception that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office is a black box, that we're a black box government agency where you file an application, whether it's for a trademark registration or for a patent, and you just have to sit back and cross your fingers and cross your toes and hope for some kind of news and hope that it's good news. We are an agency that's about communication and about transparency, and that should be very obvious when people go to our website. And we continue to revise and update our website and to make it more user-friendly. So I can actually let you in on the fact that we are continuing to rework our website, and hopefully we'll have some additional new features one thing I would draw people's attention to